Hi everyone, welcome back to another video with me, Lau. I felt inspired to make this video because I made a video about why I prefer living in Latin America over the United States, and I got a lot of great comments on that video. A lot of you guys really liked it and were very supportive, but I also got a lot of bad comments. There was a lot of controversy. A lot of people didn't watch the full video or didn't read the pinned comment and made a lot of assumptions about me or just totally misunderstood the point of the video. But just to clarify, I don't think that the United States actually sucks. I just wrote that in the thumbnail because it gets clicks. I totally understand why someone would want to live in the United States. So this video is not going to be about hating on the US at all. I just want to share some facts, some pure information about the reality of living in the United States that a lot of people outside of the US don't know about, or even people in the US don't realize this. In this video, I'm going to be referring to people in the United States as Americans. I understand that people who live in all of the Americas are technically Americans, but in English, we don't have the word United Statesians, unfortunately, so the only word that we use is Americans. All right, without further ado, let's get into it. So I got my information for this video from ChatGPT. It's really hard for me to say ChatGPT. I always say ChatGPT. ChatGPT, it just doesn't come out easily. So if I say that, whatever. So I'm not claiming that any of the statistics, any of the numbers, any of the facts in this video are 100% perfectly correct. For example, if I say 50% of Americans, blah, 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 it might be 40%, it might be 60%, but it's still a significant amount. So it's still worth mentioning. So the first thing I did was ask ChatGPT to give me shocking facts about the economic struggles of people in the United States. And it gave me quite shocking facts. The first one, over 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, meaning the majority of Americans are in trouble if they don't get their next paycheck. If they don't get paid next week or next month, they're screwed. The majority, over 60% of people are living month to month. I really don't know how people do that, but they do it. A lot of people in the world live paycheck to paycheck, obviously. It's not just in the United States. So it's hard to thrive when you're living like that. Yeah, I mean, I don't really think that the American dream was about living paycheck to paycheck, if you know what I mean. Number two, 40% of Americans can't cover a $400 emergency expense. Meaning if something happens and you need to come up with $400 on the spot that you were not planning to give up, you're screwed. $400 is not a lot of money in the United States. So it's crazy to think that almost half of Americans don't have an extra $400 lying around that they could use if something happened or if they needed to. Number three, over 25% of the workforce earns less than $15 an hour, which is below a livable wage in most of the country. That means over 1 in every 4 working adults. And then you got to take out taxes. That's not livable in the United States. The federal minimum wage hasn't changed since 2009. It's at $7.25 an hour. There are 20 states that still have that as their minimum wage since 2009. There's other states that have their own state minimum wage, which is a bit higher, but most of them are around 15 or less. I think California is like 16 something, but it's more expensive in those states. Anybody who's making minimum wage in any state is making below a livable wage. Medical debt is the leading cause of bankruptcy, with over 100 million Americans burdened by healthcare-related bills. Over 100 million Americans. How many people in the United States? Like 300 something million? Almost a third of the population is burdened with healthcare-related bills. I talked about this in my video in Latin America, that in Latin America, healthcare is like actually affordable and the quality is basically just as good, sometimes better in certain aspects. Student loan debt is over 1.7 trillion, with many borrowers struggling to pay even after decades. Yeah, that's another type of debt that a lot of us have. I have student loan debt, actually. Imagine graduating this year, 2025, and you are still paying off your student loan debt 20 years later in 2045. That's going to be a reality for a lot of people. By the way, I'm never saying that we should have free anything, okay? I'm not saying that we should have free education or free healthcare. I always use the term affordable. We should have affordable healthcare and affordable education. Retirement savings are dangerously low. About 57% of Americans have less than $1,000 saved for retirement. Okay, so once again, the majority, over half of Americans have less than $1,000 saved for retirement. That is scary because we know Social Security is not very much money. My strategy personally is just to have a job that I can do forever. I want to be 80, 90 years old still making YouTube videos just because it's fun and it keeps me using my mind, and that's actually good for your health as you get older. But some people are working jobs that are hard to do as you get older, and you shouldn't have to. You should be able to retire. The wealth gap is at its highest in decades, with the top 1% owning more wealth than the entire middle class combined. Yes, the wealth gap. We all know about this, right? I feel like I don't even have to say anything about that one. Something's not right, and you know it. In 2023, approximately 18 million US households experienced food insecurity at some point during the year. There's food scarcity, or food that's not really food, if you know what I mean. I then asked ChatGPT, how many Americans rely on food banks? It says in 2022, approximately 49 million people in the United States, about 1 in 6 Americans, looked for assistance from food banks, food pantries, and meal programs. They need to look for ways to get free food. This isn't just a United States problem, of course. This is a problem all around the world. All right, now I want to talk about inflation. From the 50s to the 70s, houses cost about 2 to 3 times annual income, making them relatively affordable. From the 90s to the 2000s, ratios climbed to 4 to 5 times income, making it harder for middle-class families. In the 2020s, home prices now average 5.6 times income, the highest in modern history. Buying a house has never been this difficult in the last 75 years. A lot of people aren't going to be able to buy a house. A lot of people are just going to be renting forever. Let's look at college tuition. In the 60s to the 80s, college was relatively affordable, costing only about 5 to 7% of annual income. In the 90s and 2000s, tuition started rising faster than income, reaching about 8 to 10% of annual income. In the 2010s to the present, tuition now costs 15 to 16% of annual income, making college much harder to afford. In the 70s and 80s, most students could pay tuition with part-time work and had little or no debt. Imagine that. You just go to school and you have a part-time job and you can pay for your school, and you graduate and you have little to no debt. Imagine that. In the 2020s, the average graduate now carries $37,000 or more in student loans. So imagine you're 22 years old, you just graduate from college, and you have $37,000 in debt or more. A lot of people have more. A lot of people graduate with $100,000 or more in debt, especially if they go to grad school, medical school, law school. They go to school for many years, they get out hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. In the 1950s, a new car cost about 35% of annual income. In the 2020s, a new car costs about 64% of annual income. The cost of rent. In the 1950s, 1970s, rent was relatively affordable, taking up about 13 to 15% of household income. Imagine spending only 13% of your income on rent. From the 2010s to the present, rent skyrocketed, now consuming 30% or more of household income on average. Yeah, I think most people are spending 30% or more of their income on rent. Some people spend half their income on rent. I'm trying to do an overview, so I'm not getting into the details of all the costs of everything, like the cost of car insurance and gas and repairs, but just know the rabbit hole is very deep. I just want to add some more random shocking facts that I think are good to include in this video. A full-time minimum wage worker could not afford a one-bedroom apartment anywhere in the country. Anywhere in the country. Like we said before, the minimum wage is not livable. A lot of people say the United States has more opportunities, more job opportunities. While that may be the case, it's still very difficult and competitive. One of my great friends from Colombia works for an American company online as, I think, a software developer, a programmer, one of those kind of jobs. The funny thing, though, is that he doesn't even have a visa for the United States. Like, he can't enter the United States, but he's got an American job online. He makes good money with that. So in this day and age, a lot of the good opportunities, you don't even have to go physically to the United States to get. Another shocking fact, over 77 million Americans have debt in collections, meaning they are behind on bills and at risk of legal action. So over 77 million Americans have so much debt that they are in trouble. they are in serious trouble. By the way, all my smiling in this video is like smiling at how messed up it is. Like I'm not like happy about this. I'm like sarcastically smiling because if you don't laugh at how ridiculous it is, you'll just drive yourself crazy. More than 1 in 3 Americans have more credit card debt than savings. So over 1/3 of the country has more credit card debt than money saved. Lovely. All right, the last shocking fact for the video. There are many more, but let's just end with this one. CEO pay has increased by over 1,200% or 1,200% since 1978, while the average worker's pay has only grown by about 18%. Let me say that again. CEO pay has increased by over 1,200% since 1978, while the average worker's pay has only grown by about 18%. Just let that one sink in. All right, I think I've given you enough information to process. A lot of this stuff I kind of knew in theory, but I didn't look at the actual numbers. And yeah, some of the stuff actually surprised me. And I'm always looking at the big picture, and I know that it's not just a United States problem, it's a world problem, it's a humanity problem. But I just wanted to focus on the United States for this video because I think a lot of people see the United States with rose-colored glasses. All right, thanks for watching the video until the end. You guys are the best, and I will see you in the next video, hopefully. I'm really enjoying making videos in English, talking about different topics. Let me know in the comments what you would like me to talk about in a future video, and I will take it into consideration. Thank you very much. Have a great day. See you later.